Nandita is an author, she is an animator, a graphic artist, and a musician, and you have had education in English literature, masters in ecology and environment, and you have also studied music from London School of Music. How much more have you done, Nandita?
I don't think I've done anything extra. Every Indian goes to, most Indians, I mean the privileged ones, I would say. They all go to school, then they have to do graduation, so they go to college and then they do something after that. So I don't think there is any exception there. But yeah, you could say like, with me, like, I had music as a subject all along, which is probably not the, easiest thing to work around with. Yeah. So that would probably be the only, different thing. But the rest is the same, I'm sure.
So recently, your book came out, The Piano Story of a Friendship. Here it is for readers who haven't seen it. It's a brilliant work. It is so beautifully written with art that's so expressive. First of all, I would like to congratulate on it. And secondly, I have so many questions.
Well, firstly, I'm deeply grateful you've read the book. So, I'm really, really grateful for that. So, thank you for reading the book. And as many questions as you want, I'm willing to answer all your questions about the book.
All right, perfect. So, since you wrote this book, and this is not your first book, you have also studied English literature, like I've mentioned, and you do graphic art, and then you do music. How did this entire thing transpire? And you have a degree, a master's in ecology and environment. So what is this map of education we have been seeing?
Obviously, it's a map of a very confused mind. Do you not get it? People who are sorted in life, they know what they're going to do, but I obviously didn't know what I was going to do. The only thing I kind of knew I would kind of like to do is play music, and I really like to write. At that point, I didn't think of graphic novels as an option, but writing was definitely there. So the whole mapping is therefore is a map of a confused mind. That's pretty much it.
Confused minds make the most beautiful things out of chaos. So, and that's what your book has been.
Is that your quote? Is that your quote?
I mean, you can quote me on it now if you would like to.
Okay, sounds good.
Okay, so you say that you do everything society tells you not to. You have been a little rebel. How would you like to express that? How would you share a little anecdote from your life that you have gone against societal norms and lived your life on your own terms?
When you say it that way, it makes me sound like a person who ran away from home, dyed my hair red. But no, it was more like, stuff like, okay, so the first thing, 20 years back, I'm talking, if you had to follow a passion or a career in music, it wasn't the easiest thing. I mean, nowadays, I think parents are more open to the idea of kids, working in an alternate kind of a space. Though I have been very lucky, my parents have been awesome, but it wasn't the easiest thing to do. So like everywhere I would go, people would ask me, so what are you doing? The minute I told them music, they'd be like, yeah, but what are you seriously doing? So this was a common question that was always asked. So you can say that was the rebellious part. The second part was, I guess, everybody wanted me to get married. I didn't get married. So,
oh my God.
that was, there was an entire battalion of people who decided, everybody decides in India that we should, because that's the be all and end all. I mean, that's where you kind of, go there. I guess that was the rebellion part, where I said, okay, no, this is not what I want to do. And I didn't do it. So I guess that bit.
God,
I didn't run away from home.
Power to you. More power to you, Nandita. I am so much in support of this. So how did you dodge the Indian aunties and group of people who just take it upon themselves to get you married off?
Well, like I said, I think I've been pretty lucky. I have a great set of parents and a really great set of, my brother and his family.
Uh-huh.
They've been awesome. And my friends. I have an entire, a gang of people who are as bad as me, you can say. So that is very helpful. But they were all, not just the Indian aunties. Please don't take out the uncles from the scenario.
Oh my God, yes. How can we miss out on them?
Yeah, the uncles are equally motivated, and they tried very hard. So after, first, they tried, then after a point, they decided there must be something wrong with me physically. Or they decided, then after a point, they went to the next stage. They started wondering on, my gender orientation, which is perfectly all right, even if I were, oriented differently. But for them, it was, all these mind games, basically. But the first thing was they thought something was defective, it was a physical problem, and of course I am dark skinned like most Indians are. This is another problem. So after all the combinations didn't work, then they gave up. They finally gave up, and they've come to some kind of peace with it.
God, your story is revealing so many layers of stereotyping and gender norms that we have in our society, which are so toxic.
Yeah, but you know what, at the end of the day, I think what is important is the clothes. I don't think I could have chosen my life if I didn't have the support around me. So I am so grateful for that, it's not like all the time your family needs to understand you, but what is important is they stand by you, right? And I am so grateful that they've always done that. So I didn't have to fight. I didn't have to do anything. I just had to say no.
Wow. Yeah, so, and no can be such a powerful word when used properly, and most women just find it so difficult to say. And I think that's exactly the support system everyone needs in their life.
Absolutely. And even if it's not close family, even as friends or a neighbor, or all of us have that capability of supporting each other, and by simple things, don't go asking people, so when are you going to get married, as if that's the only conversation left to in life. So if one can just avoid doing that, we are all great.
Children's book carries such deep-rooted connotations and meaning that are underlined with everything beautiful and simplistic language. So writing a children's book is not easy. How did you find writing for the piano? What was your experience like?
Okay, so I think I agree with you. So I love reading what is termed as children's books. I still read Winnie the Pooh. I mean, if you read Winnie the Pooh, it's definitely not for a child. Okay. Yeah. My favorite book is The Little Prince. So I truly think a story is meant for everyone. Yes, definitely. The way you perceive it is going to be different, but a story is for everyone. So when I wrote the book, I wasn't particularly thinking of I'm writing for a child or writing for an adult. I had a story. There was a deep emotional connect with the story, and I needed to have that out. So when I did write the book, I wasn't thinking of a particular audience. I was thinking of a story, and I knew the story had heart in it, and any story which has heart in it can be read by anybody, right? So I think the challenge with any story writing is basically, do you have your heart in it or not? Because sometimes while writing a story, you end up thinking of what will please the audience. It happens. The minute that creeps in, that is a bigger challenge than actually writing a story. Doesn't have, it's not specifically related to the fact that, you're writing for a child or an adult.
Yeah, it takes away the agency of the author somewhere.
Yes, because you are thinking those things, is it somewhere going to make sense to your audience? Do you want to play to what they want to hear or listen, or do you just go ahead with what the story needs?
Definitely. So when did you realize that you wanted to work with comics as a medium of expression? Because we do not have, I mean, people are not aware of the comic industry in India. It's not in the pop culture, then it definitely should be.
So, I was exposed to comic books as a kid. I mean, I think we all have read Tintin, Asterix, Phantom,
Definitely, yeah.
Ricky Rich, Casper. I mean, it's probably a different generation, but it's like all there. Um, Phantom, Mandrake, you name it, and I have read it all as a kid. And okay,
Wow.
of course, Archie comics. How can I miss that?
They were the
But
gold.
yeah, the graphic novel as a genre, it was something that was, I was exposed to it much later. I had seen bits and pieces of it because books were not easy to find. Graphic novel books, you just find the mainstream ones in India, and I'm talking 10 years back. It still wasn't very easy to find many books. But I was introduced to graphic novels through a Belgian friend of mine, because Belgium has this huge graphic novel culture. A Dutch and a French graphic novel culture. I mean, obviously they have Tintin, but apart from that, they have great stuff. And there were these Dutch and these French books, which my friend used to read out for me because I obviously don't know the language. And I would sit there and just pore over the beautiful pictures, the storytelling. Wow. And I was like, I have to do this. This is the only way I need to write. There's no other way. So that's how I kind of decided I wanted to, write graphic novels.
That sounds beautiful. What do you think, as a comic artist, what do you think is the trajectory and the scope of this genre in India?
This genre is it is very nascent steps over here right now. That doesn't mean there aren't readers for it or people who don't draw comics. There are actually plenty. I have lots of, wonderful artist friends who make beautiful comics. Okay. So there is both an audience because, there is something called an indie comic fest, which is done as an indigenous, for independent artists. But so I see a lot of people come in there and a lot of artists and, even young people who want to explore the thing, but as a viable option, where you have, you go into the market and you find a graphic novel written by an Indian, it's very few. There are just very few people. You have Sarnath Banerjee, and then you have Amrita Patel, I think, just 2 or 3 people, not many, graphic novelists at all. So it's a very, small little space. But I think it's changing.
Yeah, definitely. We would want more graphic artists, more comic artists to come out and have a big boom, because that's what this industry deserves.
It's an amazing, genre. I mean, more and more people should read it, and I don't think more people are exposed to it simply because it's not just out there. But once people get used to it, they'll just get hooked to it. I mean, you can't read anything else.
Yeah, it's just the pictures are pretty, the text is amazing, there's a storyline that follows with picture and imagination. What more can you want?
Yeah, absolutely.
How would you convince people about the seriousness of comics?
See, the idea that comics is something to make you laugh is probably not the way to go about it. It's like any genre in literature, right? You have stories which are sad, stories which are happy. So the graphic novel genre is the same. You have stories which are intense, stories. In fact, some of the graphic novel stories are superbly intense. You won't even be able to, the kind of depth they go into, whether it's defining characters or just the space. It's way more intense than a lot of just general literature. So just the idea, I think people, when we think of comics, and this is because of lack of exposure, we think of comics, we think it's Archie, we think of comics, we think it's Tintin. I mean, they're great, but there is an entire genre which is waiting to be read, and I'm telling you, if you start reading it, you'll be hooked. You will not read anything else. And because the beauty of a graphic novel is people are using, I mean, you use words, you're using pictures. Imagine how much more it can draw you in.
Yeah.
So it has that magnetic space there, and it's just lack of exposure. You just need to find it, and you'll see it's just a different space. And it's definitely not for kids. People think graphic novels are just for kids and stuff. It's for everybody.
Yeah. Being an author coming from an indie genre, what are the problems that an author faced while publishing in the industry? And what were the problems you faced and how did you overcome them?
Okay, so see, the first thing, I think most authors would face this problem. I don't think it's specifically got to do with graphic novels. When you write something, it's not like everybody, because for a publisher, and it's fair enough, they need to see something that sells. Okay, there's nothing wrong with that. Okay, and it's impossible to, there might be and they understand it as well. Like, there is a lot of good stuff, but they probably can't publish it. Okay, it's not possible for everything to be published. That doesn't make publishers like a bad, evil entity out there. Okay, because there's that many people, books you can publish, and sometimes some stories, they might be great, but they just don't sell. You can't help it. And we've all faced that. So when with graphic novels especially, there was no way to first approach a traditional publisher. There are very, very few people who will even want to touch your book. Okay. But the best part these days is you have print on demand and self-publishing. Okay. If you are smart enough, and I mean smart enough, which means you do your research a little well. Okay. Also, you don't compromise on your quality, because everybody is in a hurry to print out stuff. Even I am sometimes. I draw and I want it out there. You shouldn't be in a hurry to print out stuff. You keep the quality, and then you dabble with this print on demand stuff. Okay. Work with, building your base. Now, another part is, minute somebody, like anyone, not somebody, even me, when you make something, you equate it to the success of the book is equated to how many books it sells. There is a big problem there. Unfortunately, that's not how it works. So for anybody who is dabbling with probably working with a book or something, you have options. Work out that option, take one step at a time, and then the next path opens out. I think nowadays authors have a bigger space. It's not like before. And as far as there is always the light at the end of the tunnel, but you have to be willing to walk it. And another thing is, the minute people think my book is the best, and why hasn't it sold, or why isn't it selling? This is a problem. You have to have an open mind. It may not sell. That is okay.
That's right.
It is
okay. So there are no publishing mafias.
There is none.
There's one amazing experience that you told me about. You had a conversation, an exchange of emails with Gene Deitch, the creator of Tom and Jerry. How did that conversation with Gene Deitch inspire you to do what you do today?
So, like I told you, I was obviously very confused, and therefore I did everything in life. Okay. So one part of my life long time ago was I used to dabble in animation. But again, I didn't want to do mainstream animation. So I used to work with, the independent animation, making my own shorts and stuff. So there was this one animated short I made, and because I'm self-taught, I didn't go to any art school or anything.
Wow.
And I knew a lot of things were wrong, and I came across this email, Gene Deitch's email, and honestly at that point I didn't know who he was. I just knew he had won all these Oscars, and I knew he was a clay animator. But I had no idea he was involved with Tom and Jerry, he was involved with Popeye. I had no idea.
Wow.
So I just shot him a mail, and I said, sir, do you think you can critique my work? I mean, look at my stupidity and arrogance.
No, that's the best kind of story.
And here I am writing to this absolute, I don't know, he's like, one of the gods in animation, and, stuff like that. And But what a humble man. This guy responded to me within 48 hours saying,
Wow.
yes, I would love to. Would you send it to me? And so I sent him the animation. Again, very promptly, this gentleman, sent me a rather long mail. And I'll tell you, the beauty of the mail was this. I mean, this is where, like, a person with humility, a person who's actually great, they come from that space, not a space of arrogance, not a space of, this empty, I am the one and be all. He sent me a mail which told me what was wrong with my animation, which was perfect.
Wow.
Okay. But the way he told me that was not in a way to put me down, not in a way to dampen my spirits, because you can give up. When somebody tells you suck, you can give up.
I know.
It doesn't take long. Okay. So it didn't come from that space. How beautifully he broke it down. And there's this one line there, one little line at the end. He said, Nandita, if you have a story to tell, don't let anybody stop you.
Wow.
And that is it. That line is, that email is just in my mind. And sometimes, as an artist in any process, you doubt yourself because it's normal. Is it good enough?
Yeah.
Because there are amazing people doing amazing stuff. But that little line, like, if you have a story to tell, don't, and coming from such a, great human being with so much humility. And it was very, very beautiful and gentle the way he said it. So that was enough for me.